This is a video walkthrough for a custom rig for a video game character, in this case a mesh from the Dominance War competition. This rig makes use of Paul Neal's IK/FK blend system for the arms and the triple IK leg and foot rig. Links to both would be in the description below. In terms of the foot rig, we have a number of controls. We can lift the ankle from the heel, we can actually lift the toes themselves, we can actually lift the entire foot, and we can point the foot from the ankle. From here we can also control the orientation of the knees. It's important to note that while we can move the foot individually, that some of these control ports do get left behind, which is why we have this base which connects all of the control points of the entire rig into one point that we can move around. We also have the IK/FK blend system for the arms, so that we can use both IK or FK to control the limbs, and they're controlled by this very important control point right here. So we can switch to either the FK or the IK, and we can move them as such. We could even move them in between, like a split between the two systems, and we can move both and still influence the mesh. As we can see, this system actually does extend all the way through the forearm, the upper arm and the hand, so we can reposition them and it will blend appropriately. Returning to this control point, it actually also holds the controls for each of the fingers so that they can be moved individually from each other. We can also control the thumb in both orientations, as we can in real life with our actual hands. Moving away from this control point, we also have controls for the spine, which moves via an IK spline, so we can adjust that smoothly, and it extends all the way down to the pelvis. And all these controls are still also connected to this base rig that can be moved around freely. Each major component of this rig is actually also layered, so we can hide and show them as we need to. As we can see, we can hide and or freeze the mesh. We can hide the IK and FK bones for each of the arms, leaving behind only the blend bones, which are actually the only bones that are directly skinned to the mesh. It's also important to note that all of these control objects are able to be accessed outside of the rig, so they're not actually stuck inside, meaning we can easily just grab them even with the mesh showing and control the mesh. Another feature of this rig is that each bone is actually colour coordinated, so that if we just hide the mesh, we can see that the red bones dictate the left side and the green bones dictate the right side, with the pelvis, the major root bone, which all bones are eventually connected to, being its own colour, as well as the head. That means we can easily distinguish if the mesh is in some kind of awkward position, which bone actually belongs to which side. In terms of researching existing rigs for ideas on how to improve this, I couldn't find much that strayed too far from Paul Neal's IK/FK rigs or his triple IK foot system. However, I could find similarities between this and existing systems, such as this example, in which we can see we can actually have the orientation controls for the knees as well as the spine, and a link to this will also be in the description below. In terms of faults and criticisms of this particular rig, we can see that the rig is quite basic on the whole, although there is automation in the fact that we can control each of these fingers individually via these sliders instead of having to drag each bone by hand and rotate and place it. There isn't any way of either resetting the position of each finger, or even defaulting the pose they're in. Say, if we wanted to form the hand into a fist or a point, we'd have to move each finger individually, which can get tiring pretty quickly, especially when animating a video game character where poses might have to be formed in quick succession. at the most basic level, some kind of reset button or slider would be handy, so that we can quickly go back to a default position and animate from that, instead of having to animate from a pose to another pose directly. And we could actually say the same for the entire rig itself. We could have some sliders that move the entire rig into a certain pose, and reset the pose into like the default T pose or an A pose, just to streamline the animating process. In terms of the control points for the Colosso, we could also try and create a system where each of these control points are actually linked to the foot, so they move with the foot, and while we can still move the rig around and the control points will follow that, it still might be easy to actually lose these control points while they aren't attached to this rig. And that covers my custom rig. I hope you enjoyed it.